Alright, I've been saying this for a while, that this game could be the one. When I saw the trailer, I said, alright, this game could be the one. Then when I played the demo at PAX, I said, alright, this game could be the one. And now after playing the game in its entirety, oh yeah, it's the one. Doom 2016 did not exactly have much going on in the story department, but it had some really great lore, and I've always said that if they bring some of that lore to the forefront of a sequel, it could be really cool. Well, they did, and the results are pretty good. There's not a whole lot of main story, and some asshats online are still somehow complaining about skippable cutscenes, but I genuinely like what we did get here. To me, there is something really compelling about a man so stubborn in his ways that he is willing to defy literally all the power of heaven and hell just to save his people. He may not speak, but his actions are very clear. I love it when people tell the Doomslayer not to do something and then he immediately goes and does it, or when he gets challenged to a fight and doesn't take the escape route present and instead stays for the carnage.
You are nothing but a usurper, a false idol. My eyes have been opened. Let me help you to see, Slayer.
It's simple but entertaining, and I really wish we got even more because the lore in the game is terrific. I read literally every single piece of lore that I picked up because I genuinely think it's really interesting. We got a lot of insight into the Slayer's backstory and the history of this universe, and I wish even more of this was brought to the forefront because it's so good. But Doom was always about the gameplay first and the story second, so the fact that I can actually sit here and say that the story is also pretty good is a solid plus to this game. Doom 2016 was already one of the best first-person shooters ever, but I think that Doom Eternal just takes what 2016 did well and improves on it in literally every way possible. Every gun feels so crunchy and satisfying to use, and all the animations and glory kills have been up from the already great spot they were at in Doom 2016. The attention to detail is insane, and there is so much damage that is actually displayed on the enemies. You know when you have them weak because their bodies will be ripped apart with chunks missing. The level design is also top-notch, both from a world and gameplay perspective. I'll talk about the world perspective a bit later on, but from the gameplay side of things, pretty much every area flows extremely well and never felt repetitive. The new level of verticality also helps, as the ability to dash, swing on poles, and grapple on enemies' faces really speeds up the pace and ups the insanity by a large margin. With this new movement though, comes some platforming sections, and I actually really enjoyed these. Some people were giving them shit though, and I honestly don't know why. I mean, they take a little bit to get adjusted to, but as the game progresses, you can fly through the air with ease, and I thought it became really fun. And that talk of progression transitions into the biggest thing that this game gets right, the overall sense of progression and variation that I feel was lacking a bit in Doom 2016. In that game, there came a point where it kind of felt like you weren't really progressing much, and you were engaging in too many similar fights just cycling through the same few weapons. But Doom Eternal gets rid of all of that, and offers some of the most meaningful progression I have seen in a very long time. Because it's not just the fact that there is way more variety in the environments, enemies, or weapons, it's about you as a player progressing. When you start the game, a lot of things may seem a bit foreign or hard to you, like switching weapons and mods on the fly, like the fact that there are very few ammo and health pickups, or just simply the fact that enemies are absolutely brutal. But as the game progresses, you start to learn these systems and how they work. You learn what weapons best suit each scenario, and start to quickly swap based on what you need. You learn that you have pretty much unlimited chainsaw uses, and that chainsawing enemies gives you ammo back, the same way that glory killing them gives you health, and setting them ablaze gives you armor, and that the game always spawns in endless little enemies during a fight. This leads you to figure out that, okay, maybe I should prioritize the real threats first and save the little guys for ammo or health. And then when it comes to the enemies themselves, you will start by getting your ass handed to you, especially by the Marauder. But the more you play, the better you start to get. And by the end, you go from getting your shit kicked in to dealing with him in about 5 to 10 seconds. It's a fantastic push and pull battle where the game requires you to learn from your mistakes and figure out a good strategy. Most of the people online crying about the game being unfair are just refusing to learn and playing like boneheads. People are saying the game gives you no ammo, but then they proceed to never use the chainsaw, when the game has so clearly told you that that is the way to get ammo back. And every single enemy in this game has a weak point, and if you utilize that weak point, you can take them out a lot easier. Sticky grenade the Arachnotron's turret, snipe off the Revenant's cannons, freeze the Whiplash, and you're in a great spot. But if you charge in trying to use the same gun on every enemy, it's not going to work and you're going to get destroyed. Because this is definitely a very challenging game, there's no question about it. It's certainly harder than Doom 2016, and I would actually recommend playing it on normal difficulty if you are new to Doom or aren't that great at FPS games in general. I played it first on Ultraviolence, which is the hard mode, and I died more than a few times. But even when it felt unfair and I was complaining about a certain enemy, by the end of the game, I had a great way to deal with them and it felt really satisfying. I won't show you gameplay from the ending section because I don't want to spoil it, but just know that I was able to very handily take on an insane horde of every enemy in the game, and I felt very confident in my ability to do so, something that I would not have said halfway through the game. It's going to require a little bit of thinking on the player's part, but it is extremely fun and rewarding as a result, and I was literally shaking with adrenaline afterwards. I also feel that I should mention the boss fights, as Doom 2016 had some pretty solid encounters. I won't show many of the fights here because I don't want to spoil anything, but I can say that I enjoyed pretty much every boss in Doom Eternal, though I think some are certainly better than others. Like the second to last boss, for example, was a great spectacle, but the actual fight was pretty easy. The final boss, though, was a really fun ass-clenching affair that had both great spectacle and gameplay. Doom Eternal also has a fair bit of secrets and exploration, with a ton of little secret passageways and crevices to find, and I honestly think these may be my favorite collectibles in any game. They're placed in really smart spots that are always fun to try and find, and aside from the upgrades and tokens scattered about, there are some nice little trinkets to collect that you can keep around your base, mainly things like toys and soundtracks. These soundtracks are particularly cool because you can actually play them and listen to them as you roam around. And then there are the Slayer's Gates and secret encounters, which are basically just challenge rooms, except you have to go into them with whatever ammo or health you have, and you don't get anything back if you lose. They are insane, and they throw so many enemies at you at once that I could safely say that if you're finding the game too hard as is, you should probably avoid these. I, for one, thought they were a great addition, but they are very difficult. Oh, and there's also a multiplayer component to the game. Now, I've only played for a little bit, maybe like 2 hours or so, but it's certainly a very interesting idea for a multiplayer mode, and from what I played, it's been really fun. It's basically a 2v1 where one player is the Slayer and the other two are demons trying to kill him. There are a lot of moving parts, so it will be confusing if you don't do the tutorials, but once you figure it out, it's pretty cool. You definitely have to be pretty good at the game if you're going to play as the Slayer, though, but if you know what you're doing, you can destroy the demons. I don't know how much it will hold people's attention, but a solid multiplayer add-on is really just a little bit of whipped cream on top of the triple-decker cake that is the campaign. Overall, though, the variety in this game is great, the sense of progression is phenomenal, and this is the best gunplay ever, hands down. So, right off the bat, the first thing that everyone will notice is the use of color. Doom 2016 was a great looking game, but the color palette was pretty much exclusively orange, brown, gray, and red. Doom Eternal brightens things up and adds so much more color into it. Some people weren't a huge fan, but I really enjoyed it, and I think it fits perfectly with the new set of environments we got. Because this time, the game isn't confined to just Mars and Hell. This time we also got to go to Earth, space, and several other dimensions. It's a fantastic new landscape with some of the best looking environments we're going to see this year. From the blood, tentacles, and guts spilling out from the sides of a building, to the towering ancient temples and coliseums. And on top of that, we got a new soundtrack from Mick Gordon, and I'm happy to report that I think it's better than Doom 2016's soundtrack. There are obviously some incredible high-octane heavy metal tracks to flow through your veins and make you go insane during battle, but we also got some stellar ambient pieces that I absolutely adore. There is a nice tribal influence to these tracks, thanks to the game's deeper focus on the religions and cults of the Doom universe, and they made roaming around these new worlds even better. This game also has some great texture work, and despite all the stuff you're seeing on screen, it's still super well optimized, never dropping below 100 for me on Ultra, and mostly staying locked at 144 FPS the whole time. Overall, the art and design in Doom Eternal are top tier just like everything else, and the performance still holds strong even with all that there is to see. Now, normally when I have a con section, it's for when a game has significant issues that need pointing out, but in this case, there's not much to say, so I'm just going to use this time to nitpick a little bit, since the game isn't without fault. My biggest issue comes in the form of this purple slime shit. It's part of their new environmental hazards, but it's the only one of the three that I don't like. I think the toxic sludge and the water are cool because they force you to act fast, but this just makes you slow. Like literally, it just makes you super slow, which kind of breaks the flow a little bit and certainly just made the game less good when it was present. Thankfully, it makes up only like 0.5% of the game, so it is very minor and you'll go by it pretty quickly. And then the only things beside that are really just a few bugs I ran into. Some were funny, like this Pinky just dropping dead, but others were a bit worse with enemies not spawning, which required me to restart the checkpoint. But even that was pretty minor because the checkpoint was at the start of the fight, so I didn't lose progress or anything. But yeah, that was pretty much it. And that should tell you just how good this game is if my two biggest complaints are some nitpicks. Alright, so by now, it is very obvious that I would recommend this game to everyone, especially shooter fans. For those who don't play many shooters though, it may be a bit hard, but even still, I would 100% say give it a shot if you're at all interested. As I said before, Doom 2016 was already one of the best shooters ever, but I think Doom Eternal is the best first-person shooter ever. It is an absolute thrill ride throughout the entire journey, and I feel it would be shameful to give it lower than a 9. Thankfully though, we don't have to entertain that line of thinking, because Doom Eternal gets my second ever 10. It's not completely flawless, but nothing ever is, so I like to give 10s to games that just go above and beyond in all aspects and are truly something special. And without a doubt, that is Doom Eternal. Alright, wow, my first review for 2020, and it's already one of the best games ever made. I am super excited to see what else we have in store for us later this year, and if you are too, make sure to hit that subscribe button to see all my future reviews. If you've played Doom Eternal, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, or in the poll in the top right of your screen. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.